So we'll start right now.
Hello and welcome everyone to our expert workshop on the 7SX85, a new SIPROTEC 5 7X protection device, a universal protection device. My name is Cole Stammers and I'm proud to be your moderator for today's session. Some of you might already know me from our Australian audience. I've done some webinars for here, some of our local customers. Today, I'll be guiding you through this session for our brand new solution, the SIPROTEC 5 7SX85, an all-in-one product for protection, control, and automation in the substation. Before we get started, we just want to check that everything is working fine. So we've prepared a quick poll for you to check if you can hear and see us well. So this poll will appear in the right-hand side of the screen. So please take your moment to answer that poll for us, and we would very much appreciate it. If you're having any problems with your screen, please hit the refresh button on your keypad, which is F5, which will refresh your browser. Otherwise, we recommend a couple of things to make sure the platform is working fine. Use the Chrome browser, also use a wired LAN connection, and also switch off your VPN. So I think our poll, it looks like everything is working fine, so thank you everyone. So you're more than welcome to ask questions throughout the session, but because you cannot unmute yourself, you're welcome to put questions in the top right-hand corner of the screen where there is a section for questions. So these questions will go directly to our experts, and then later on in the session, we'll have time to answer those. Any that we don't get to throughout the session, we will respond to them via email. And yes, before you ask the question, we are recording this session, and everyone will receive a recording of that in their email after the session's taken place. So now let me introduce our experts. Klaus Wagner and Michael Zapp are our expert application engineers, and they are experts for the SIPROTEC platform based in Germany. And they will be the ones presenting the 7SX and its exciting new features. We're also joined by a special guest, which is the product's PLM. That's Stefan Werber, and he'll be the one fielding most of these questions. So Klaus, without much further ado, we're curious to hear more about the 7SX Universal Protection Device.
Thanks for the introduction, Cole. For those who are not familiar with our SIPROTEC 5 family, we bring a short introduction to this protection device generation. Siemens has a long history since its foundation in 1847. Already from 1910 up to today, Siemens has experience in protection relays. With this background, we introduced the SIPROTEC 5 device family in 2012. SIPROTEC 5, above all other features, stands for flexibility. This shows in the modular hardware. We're starting from a base device, additional so-called expansion modules, or the plug-in modules for communications can be added by the user. Both can be added or exchanged at any time of the device's life cycle. The functional flexibility comes with the library INDXi 5, which offers a large selection of functions that can be added to the device configuration. These functions are not offered as function packages, as we do with SIPROTEC 4 devices. In the SIPROTEC 5 world, the device functions have a certain value expressed in so-called function points. The SIPROTEC 5 devices are ordered with a certain function point budget, which can then be used to build up a configuration with the required functions. This system makes it easy to exchange functions with the same function point value, because not the function itself counts, but its function point value. With this principle, it is also very easy to expand a device configuration. Function points can be bought at the time a function upgrade is needed and do not need to be considered and paid already in advance when the device is ordered. With all this flexibility, we created devices tailored for a certain purpose and also kept the naming similar to our SIPROTEC 4 relays. The result is our SIPROTEC 5 device family that covers almost all required applications. With a universal device, we now make the next step for flexibility. The range of type-related devices is now completed by a universal device 7SX85, which can incorporate all functions of respective type-related devices. As a consequence, the limits between type-related devices disappear, where an overcurrent relay 7SJ8 cannot be changed into a distance relay 7SA8, and a distance relay cannot be transformed into a line differential relay 7SD8, the universal device 7SX85 does not have such limits and can be easily modified by the user himself, who needs just to add the necessary functions to the existing device configuration. In the type-related SIPROTEC 5 relays, we have so-called main protection functions, like, for example, a distance protection function, already together with additional functions like, for example, teleprotection or an emergency overcurrent protection in the basic package. To this, additional functions like auto-reclosure can be added in a flexible function area. As a difference, the universal device has only some general functions like measuring values, the logic chart editor, CFC, or control commands in the base functionality. The functions which are main functions in the type-related devices, such as a distance or a transformer differential protection, can be flexibly added along with all other functions available in the library. And now, Michael, it's your turn.
Thank you, Klaus. And also a warm welcome from my side to all attendees of this webinar introducing our Universal 7SX85 protection device. Klaus introduced the flexible design of our SIPROTEC 5 family, using modular hardware, the functional flexibility via the function library in Dixie 5, and the concept of function points for customizing the SIPROTEC 5 relays according to the applications. The type-related devices 7SJ overcurrent relay, 7UT transformer protection, and 7SA distance protection are using this flexibility already, but not yet to the possible maximum amount. In the base package of the device types, a predefined amount of protection functions is always included and contributing therefore also to the price of these typed devices. A distance protection relay has a higher price as a simple overcurrent relay. The most important acceptance criterion for a universal device is to define a price level which is corresponding to the market price level. A simple approach is to design the universal relay with a maximum amount of possibly needed protection functions. That ensures that independent from the use case, the functionality of the universal relay will always fit. The big disadvantage of this approach can easily be seen. Because the universal relay will have the same price for high-end applications like distance or transformer protection, but also for simple applications like overcurrent protection. As a consequence of such an approach, having always all possible functions on board, the price of the universal relay would be determined by the most expensive device type. This does not make sense and would not find the necessary acceptance of the market. Siemens neglected such a concept and used a different approach. Our approach is to bring the flexible and modular design of our SIPROTEC 5 family to the next level. Separation is the key. In the context of the universal device, separation means separate the definition of the hardware for the universal device and separate the selection of the needed function point class. In a first step, the hardware covering the needs of the application regarding number of inputs and outputs is selected. In the hardware, no protection functions are included and therefore are not considered in the price. All protection functions are priced according to an accepted market price level. The price for each function is represented with function points. In the next step, the function points for the needed protection functions of the application are selected from the function list. The result will be a complete order number of your universal relay with the needed hardware and a function point amount covering the desired protection functions. Important to mention is that the function points are not bound to the protection functions, but like for all SIPROTEC 5 relays, can be later be used flexible. With this approach, we can state price follows the functionality. This makes sense and is a prerequisite for the acceptance of the market because the device is scaled in price and functionality. Not the most expensive relay determines the price of the universal relay, but the application. It is possible to define the universal relay covering the same application as a typed relay. It's important for the same or for a comparable price. I showed you in the last slide how to define the universal relay 7SX85, equivalent to the type-related SIPROTEC 5 devices, meaning already prepared and equipped with the fitted hardware and the required function point class. For projects where you know the needed functions already at the date you place the order, maybe because you use always the same typicals, that is a fitting approach. However, that is not always the case. Sometimes you need to be flexible even until start of commissioning, and the protection concept is modified during the project, not only once, but more often. Or you must be able to react fast to deliver a customized relay to your customer due to an emergency situation, but do not have all device types on stock. For such use cases, the flexibility can be used to the maximum level. You order the universal relay without any function points included, only the fitted hardware, base hardware and expansion modules. Klaus will soon give you details about this. And then marry the function points with the relay later, after everything is finally clarified. How can that be organized? Easy, because you can order a budget of function points, for example, for a project. With the help of the function point manager, you can work with your function point budget and create exactly at the time you are sure that the concept is frozen, the needed function point class and load them into the devices. The function point manager is a new tool to create or upgrade function points for a device on demand within minutes. All that is needed is to register and create your function point manager account. When that is done, you can order your function point budget needed, for example, for your project. As soon as the ordered function points are credited to your account, you can create within seconds the needed function point class for the devices according to the needs of your application and generate and download the license files. The license file can be transferred from Dixie5, our engineering tool, to your device. The costs for the function points will not be charged when the function point budget is credited to your account, but only after you generate the license file, and only the cost for the number of used function points will be invoiced. The universal device 7SX85 is bringing together with the function point manager the flexibility of our SIPROTEC 5 family to a maximum. Before Klaus will introduce the hardware aspects and the functional scope of the 7SX85 universal device, we would like to start a poll. In case you are using the full screen modus, please press the escape button to be able to see our poll question at the right side of your monitor. Do you see a beneficial application of SIPROTEC 5 7SX85 universal protection device in your company?
For the 7SX85 base module, we provide 3 different types of hardware. Beside a module with 2 sets of current inputs with integrated I/O 203, we have 2 types with 1 set of current and 1 set of voltage transformers. The difference between the last 2 is the number of binary inputs and binary outputs, where the base module with the I/O 202 has more binary inputs, the other one containing an I/O 208 has more binary outputs. Of course, these base modules can be expanded with all the modules which are also available for the type-related SIPROTEC 5 devices. Finally, the base modules can be equipped with the same plug-in modules as for the type-related SIPROTEC 5 devices. The base devices can be used universally. All available functions can be configured with each of the basic variants. Missing analog inputs, such as current and voltage transformers, can be added in further expansion modules. So each base module can be used for transformer differential protection, and each base module can be also used for line protection. That means you can standardize on only one base module for all your protection applications. And this universal device can take over all functions of up to 12 individual type-related devices. Which functionality is covered so far by the universal device 7SX85? The 7SX85 covers the hardware and functionality of our modular type-related SIPROTEC 5 devices. This means the non-expandable devices such as 7SJ82 or 7UT82 cannot be replaced. Basically, all protection and control devices with 3-pole tripping functionality can be covered by a 7SX85. Excluded at the moment are the busbar protection 7SS85, the fault recorder 7KE85, and railway protection devices. The configuration of the various device types found within a substation is very easy. A basic configuration, which is identical for all application, is created once for the first bay type. This contains, for example, bay-related interlockings and other user-specific CFC logics, user-defined signals, the configuration of fault recording, maybe generally used protection functions, the front display configurations, the creation of switching elements, protocol mappings, and maybe more. After that, this base configuration is just copied and finalized by adding specific functions and other features for the next typical. So instead of creating the basic configuration repeatedly for every device type or application, it is created only once and then available as a basis for every typical. And this saves effort and time. And now Michael tells us about the advantages regarding spare part handling and changing requirements.
Despite the high device quality of our SIPROTEC 5 devices, with a mean time between failure of over 350 years, calculated from returned goods, we want to talk about spare parts. The normal use case we know from our customers and also from tender specifications is that for each device type, at least one complete device must be available as spare part in order to be able to react fast in emergency situations. That is costly and cannot even guarantee that always the fitted device is still on stock, especially when the stock is used not only for one project, but for several projects. It's obvious that the number of necessary spare parts to cover the complete range of protection devices goes down when only one device type is used. But it is not only this point. Who has not experienced the situation that a device was broken and the corresponding spare part exactly for this type was not available? Then it is good to have a universal device that can replace all type of devices. To keep spare part costs low and use them more flexible is one important point. But even more important is to secure your investment costs. The universal functionality helps even when the requirements of the primary system change. For example, a feeder is protected by a distance protection, and after some time of operation, the line is equipped with communication, so that it would be desirable to replace the distance protection by a line differential protection. No problem with the 7SX85. Drag and drop the line differential functionality from the library into the configuration, add the communications module to the hardware, and the new functionality is available. No replacement of the device, no new wiring, only a change in the configuration. Both functions are using the same amount of function points, therefore there will be no additional costs. Alternatively, you can simply add the line differential and keep the distance protection as a backup protection function. Or a feeder is equipped with an overcurrent protection and the network topology changes so that suddenly a distance protection is required. Another case we often find in industrial plants. Today, the feeder is protected with an overcurrent protection. Tomorrow, the feeder is connected to a new motor. With the 7SX85, you simply add the dedicated motor protection functions to the existing configuration. The device hardware itself does not need to be replaced. Or we have the scenario that one spare feeder is already fully equipped with a protection device, and this device is used for replacement of a defective device. Also, here a universal device guarantees a smooth replacement because all required device functions can be loaded into this device. Now, you may ask, will the universal device 7SX85 be the only solution for all application and use cases in the future? In case you already use our type-related SIPROTEC 5 devices in your projects, you can continue using the same typed devices as you did in the past. Our SIPROTEC 5 type devices will be available, of course, in the future. And the universal device is only a new member of the SIPROTEC 5 family and not a replacement of existing types. Or you can profit directly from the benefits when using the universal device 7SX85. A changeover is possible at any time without problems. You even could mix in a project type-related and universal devices. The process for replacing defective devices by the universal device 7SX85 is easy, as I will show you in the next slide. All settings, connections, logics and used protection functions can be exported into a TX file. TX stands for Totally Integrated Energy Automation Exchange format. That is done via the engineering tool DXI5, as also the next steps I will explain. By importing the TX file, into the 7SX85 universal device, the conversion is almost finished. In a final step, the configuration must be downloaded into the physical 7SX85 universal device. A convenient, fast, and easy way to convert an existing configuration, right? Before we close this webinar with our question and answer session, back to Klaus.
So finally, what benefits do we see the new 7SX85 can offer for you? First, a consequential use of the 7SX85 reduces dramatically the number of device variants. This facilitates the daily work in many situations, having to deal only with one device type. Then, having installed only one device type obviously reduces the number of spare parts to a minimum. Before, we showed you that you can save a lot of engineering work by configuring a common part for all different typical applications only once, and then reuse this configuration as a basis for all other feeder typicals. Michael showed you that using 7SX85, you are perfectly prepared for future changes of your primary setup. Whether you need to switch from a distance protection to a line differential protection, or from an overcurrent to a distance protection, with 7SX85 the solution is simple and saves time and money. Whatever are the manifold challenges, SIPROTEC 5 is prepared to react in a smart way, providing the possibility for a very universal function mix. This gives you peace of mind. What can we offer? Our SIPROTEC website is our central access point to get further information about all our relays, including application notes that help you get the most out of your relays. Additionally, we have a well-trained local team in most of the countries, which are happy to answer your questions and to assist you in any other possible way. They are supported by technical experts in the headquarters who help them find the optimum solution for your problem. We also offer webinars like this one to inform you about our solutions and give you also guidance how to work with our products. You find them on our website or some of them also on YouTube. If you want to dig deeper, we have also plenty of YouTube tutorials available that help you, for example, when you have questions regarding your Dixie configuration. Very important is our Siemens Power Academy that offer a large variety of trainings, also online, around SIPROTEC 5 and much more. And finally, for devices already in service, our worldwide customer support 24/7 help tackle problems with the devices. Siemens has many people on board giving you right documents and tools. Our experts help you finding your tailor-made solution. This brings us to the end of our presentation of our new SIPROTEC 5 universal device 7SX85. Thank you for listening. And now I will hand over to Cole for our question and answer session.
Thank you very much, Klaus, and Michael as well. So let's take a look at some of the questions we've received from the audience. I'm going to read them aloud and hopefully you guys can help us answer them. So the first question I have here is, can all the expansion and plug-in modules be used together with the 7SX85? So I'll pass that question to Michael.
A very good question. Yes, the answer I can say yes, we can use all expansion modules, communication modules, plug-in modules like arc protection, like analog input modules, like serial or Ethernet-based communication interfaces. What has been designed for our SIPROTEC 5 family, also for the universal device. That is let's say, a platform concept, meaning all the components what we develop in the past and of course also in the future for our SIPROTEC 5 family can also be used and are supported from our universal protection device 7SX85. I hope that answers your question.
Thank you, Michael. Next question is, where do I see how much function points a certain function requires? And I'll pass that question to Stefan.
Thanks, Cole. We have in our internet appearance the device configuration tool, which you will find under the term SIPROTEC 5 configurator. And in this tool, you are actually configuring the device and its ordering code. And in this tool, we have a so-called function point calculator added. So if you select the device, in our case, for example, the Universal device 7SX85, if you select the device type, you will come to the position in the configuration of that function point calculator. You start this little extra application and you select the functions that you need to apply. And in this tool, for each function, you can see the number of function points related to this function. And at the end, the tool simply adds up the required function points and gives you the result. So again, it's very easy about the so-called function point calculator, where you see how many function points are associated to a function and the tool adds it up for you.
Thank you, Stefan. I see there's a question in the chat as well as a question we've received through the other questions submission. I'll combine them for you, and I think, Stefan, you can answer this for me as well. Has the 7SX85 reached sales release, and is it available in all countries?
Actually, these are two questions, so step by step. The 7SX85 has not even the sales release, it also has its delivery release. So the device can be ordered and delivered. However, because the universal device approach is new to our organization, our sales and product portfolio department decided to introduce it to the market in a stepwise approach. So we have, in a first step, selected countries like Australia and New Zealand are belonging to these selected countries, where we want to introduce the universal device into the market first and gain experience regarding these new concepts for function point managing and pricing. And if we all gain good experience, what of course our expectation is, then we will further release the universal device to the whole market, which means to all countries. But currently we have a limited release to something like almost 10 countries.
Thanks for that, Stefan. Also, I'm going to combine two questions here that have come in. So firstly, there's a question saying, how much is the price difference between a 7SL86, which is a line diff and distance relay, and the 7SX85? And I want to combine that question with another question to generally ask, is the 7SX more expensive than the type-related device with a corresponding set of functions? So I'll pass that to Klaus, because I think you covered that content.
Yeah, thank you, Cole. Basically, the approach is, as Michael already explained with the slides, that we don't want to create a universal device with all functions, and then, of course, with a maximum price because all functions are in there. This was not our goal, but the goal is to have a flexible relay at the price level as we get also with for the typed relays. That means with this general approach, we can say the price of a typed relay with the relative functions and our universal relay, the 7SX85, is equal. So now we have the situation that the the function structure and the price structure of both type of relays, so the type related and the universal device, is different. So the overall goal is there to have exactly the same price level. In detail, depending on which functions are picked, it might be that the one or the other type is a little bit higher or lower. This can differ from case to case. And yeah, in such a case, we have to discuss then about the prices.
Okay, I have another question here. Does the device come with more than 4 current coils or current inputs? So Michael, can you answer that for us?
Yes, thank you for giving me the chance to answer this question. The answer is yes and yes. Why yes? In the base module, we have 3 different type of base hardware available. One of them is already equipped with 2 CT blocks for 2 times 4 CT inputs. So in the base module already you can have more than 1 set of CT inputs. And with the use of our expansion modules, there are a lot of expansion modules available, and some of them are coming with 2 CT terminal blocks. Some of them is 1 and 1 VT input block, some with 2 VT input blocks. So you are very flexible as well in the base base hardware module, but also via the expansion modules, where we have a lot of expansion modules. What it's not coming only with digital input and outputs, but also with CT and VT terminal blocks, where you can connect additional needed inputs. So we can cover large application, for example, in a cap bank protection scheme. Sometimes you need to have 7 or up to 9 CT 4 times current input blocks. All that can be, of course, covered with a universal device by using the fitting expansion modules.
Thanks for that, Michael. I have an interesting question here as well that asks, will the process work of replacing a relay with the 7SX85 work for the non-modular SIP5 relays? I think, Michael, you mentioned the process of converting a setting file into TX and then into 7SX85. Do you want to maybe take this question?
Yes, I can take this question. Like Stefan already mentioned, we have a stepwise approach for our universal device. First step was to introduce this 7SX85 in the first country. This first country was our home turf in Germany. And now the second wave, including a set of countries where New Zealand and Australia is part of the countries we released it. And let's say a half year back, we introduced a small brother or sister of the 7SX85, the so-called 7SX800. That's a SIPROTEC 5 compact device, not the non-modular SIPROTEC 5, but an even smaller device for alternative or for additional approach of our SIPROTEC 4 compact devices. At the moment, the non-modular SIPROTEC 5 devices are not yet on our roadmap to have this alternative. Now, the full flexibility can be reached when using the modular SIPROTEC 5 devices. For the non-modular SIPROTEC 5, so it's not yet a plan to have also a universal device. For the SIPROTEC 5 compact, smaller, 1/6 of 19-inch prod, we have one, the 7SX800. For the modular one, the introduced 7SX85. For the non-modular one, not. But with a base housing of the 7SX85, of course, you can cover nearly all the applications you are used for the non-modular one. Only in case you need more input-outputs, then you would need to have additional input-output expansion module that you can cover all the needed inputs, outputs. From functionality point of view, that's no problem.
I would like to add on that. If our experiences with the 7SX85 and of course the compact class universal device are positive, and we are seeing demand from the market, then I'm sure that we will also have a non-modular universal device in the future.
Maybe I can add also some comment to this question. I understood that the question was if we can take a configuration from a non-modular device like 7SJ82 or 7U82 and reuse this in 7SX85. Although the hardware is different, it is of course possible. It is the same procedure as with the modular devices we had on the slides. So we export the TX file and import this TX file again in the 7SX85. So also the configuration already done with non-modular devices, similar to the modular devices, can be reused, can be exported and imported in the new relay. So it's not a need to start from scratch and make the complete configuration again in the 7SX85 device.
Okay, thank you all for answering that question. So I have an interesting question here as well. It asks, can the 7SX85 act as a master for Modbus RTU? Where I imagine they're saying that the 7SX itself is acting as the master. So Michael's raised his hand.
Yep. Yeah. Our protection devices are, let's say, multifunctional devices, like Cole mentioned at the beginning, yeah, for control, monitoring, measuring, and protection. All communication interface can be equipped with hardware, with plug-in modules. What we don't have in the entire SIPROTEC 5 or SIPROTEC family is a so-called cascading communication functionality to work as a data concentrator or have a cascading interface. So the communication protocols what are implemented in our protection devices are all server Ethernet based or slave if you have serial protocols. We have no master or client functionality in. More interesting would be the use case, because we have a lot of functionality. What should be connected? Yeah, with I don't know, Ethernet-based subnet. We can, for example, connect PD100 modules. We have arc flash protection, communication interfaces. So if you have a special application for that, come back to us and we can look for a possible solution. But master protocols and we don't have implemented in our protection families.
I also would like to add on that. Yes, the Modbus Master functionality is actually on our roadmap, and I would assume the application is, of course, to if you have sensors, external sensors, whatever pressure, temperature, it's quite common that these sensors provide their values via Modbus protocol, and by having the master functionality in the 7SX, you could connect them and obtain these sensor values. And we have this on our roadmap, and I strongly assume that this will be somewhere during the next calendar year 2022 available as a platform feature for SIPROTEC 5, which means then, of course, also for the universal device.
Thank you, gentlemen. I have another a very good question here as well. It reads, being a universal relay, is there any mechanism or other built-in concept that considers some redundancy apart from the physical redundancy? Yes, Michael.
I already switched to me.
Right.
Thank you.
Yes,
let's see, the flexible and modular design of our SIPROTEC 5 and of course also for the universal device is considering a lot of redundancy concepts. So redundancy is always, let's say, depending from the understanding of the person who is asking or is developing a redundancy concept. Yeah, first of all, we can equip a SIPROTEC 5 device with redundant power supply. So that would be, from a hardware point of view, to increase the reliability in adding a redundant power supply. And for me, more important is this concept of, let's say, functional redundancy. You can design a SIPROTEC 5 device selecting different sources like current and voltage inputs with a modular concept using expansion modules to add additional CTs and VT inputs, and group them together with a group of protection functions. So different sources, different CT1. If you have for the same feeder, for example, two CTs, you can use one of them feeding into the algorithm of one protection group and another physical input for another protection function group. And also regarding communication, we can, in the base module, equip the relay with 2 communication interfaces, and if you need more, you have also the possibility to use an expansion module with 3 additional slots. 2 can be equipped with communication interfaces, and from redundancy regarding communication, you are very flexible. For Ethernet-based protocols, all our communication interfaces are equipped with 2 interfaces. What can be then selected for a redundancy algorithm? Line redundancy with dual homing, or parallel redundancy protocol, or in a ring configuration, the rapid spanning tree protocol, or the high seamless redundancy protocol, HSR. So from communication point of view, redundancy is considered. And for serial protocols, you can also equip one communication module with 2 physical interfaces for redundant communication. You can group protection functions and select the necessary physical connection to the CTs, VTs, and create their large redundancy concepts. I hope that answers your question.
I would like to add one more point. It is about the redundancy for protection function. If you think about the main protection function for many applications is the distance protection function. Here we also have the possibility to add software redundancy or functional redundancy, because we have one distance protection function which is very similar to the distance protection function, to the approach what we have, to the algorithms what we have with SIPROTEC 4, so what we can call the classical distance protection function. And then during the development of the SIPROTEC 5 relays, we also developed a complete new distance protection function, which is based on other principles, so that we can say we have also a functional redundancy using the one or the other distance protection function. And this is one example to have a redundancy also in the protection functions in one device family like SIPROTEC 5. So it's no need to have a SIPROTEC 4 and a SIPROTEC 5 device to have a functional or software redundancy. We have this already based on SIPROTEC 5. So if you want to have the full redundancy, you can take 2 SIPROTEC 5 devices, one with the classical, one with the newer so-called, now what is the name?
Reactance method.
Reactance method distance protection, RMD it is called. Yeah, thank you, Michael. So 2 different principles. The result is, let's say, similar, to trip selectively in the most possible fast time, but 2 different algorithms behind. So a software redundancy already based on SIPROTEC 5 relays.
Perfect. Thank you, Klaus. I just noticed a question come into our chat box that says, what about communication with emerging unit? I think that's a good question to touch on process bus. Can I pass that to Michael, please?
Yeah, thank you. Very interesting question. Yes, SIPROTEC 5 universal device based on our SIPROTEC 5 family. And we can use here the connection to merging units, Ethernet communication modules, the so-called Ethernet BD module, can be plugged in, and you can release this function as a IC 6150-9-2 process bus client. And like all our SIPROTEC 5 devices, you can also release the merging unit functionality inside of the 7SX85. Yeah, it can work as a merging unit, so as a server for sampled measured values, or as a subscriber as a IC 6150-9-2 client. That it's available for all our modular SIPROTEC 5 devices, including 7SX85, via the Ethernet communication module, what can be then also synchronized with a precise time protocol, what is needed for sample synchronization. Yeah, it can be work as a client subscriber of the information from a merging unit, but also can be used as a merging unit itself. Both is possible.
Okay, it seems to have got a question from the Philippines as well. Is it available in the Philippines, the 7SX85, and what is the price? Is a very good question. I imagine that changes, but Stefan, I'll pass it to you. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Cole. Well, as explained, we have the stepwise approach. So currently it's not available for the Philippines. Again, if our experience is positive, which I of course assume, during the next calendar year, we will introduce it into further countries. This is mainly then driven by our sales department, and I think there's a big chance that it will also be available then in the Philippines. Regarding price, we already tried to answer. We tried to make the pricing comparable to our typed devices. So you should, if you know the pricing for the typed devices, you should not discover big differences. Sometimes it could be even a bit with a lower price, the universal device, or with a small higher price, depending on the precise functionality you need. If you register, I think for our configuration tool, you can configure, you can already see the device also in other countries like Philippines. It's also contained in our price list, so prices are generally available and you can find out about them.
Thank you for that, Stefan. So we do have a few more questions and we are getting close to the end of the session, but I'll ask a couple more. Is the device capable in data event logging functions? And I'll pass that to Michael.
Yes, all our SIPROTEC 5 devices, like in the past also our SIPROTEC 4 and even SIPROTEC 3 release, will store all data, what we call sequence of event, to be able to see what happened in my substation. Additionally to the fault records, so all events are logged inside of the device. You can transfer them via COM-feed format, for example, or by using the connection to a next level substation automation system via protocol IEC 6150, Modbus TCP, IEC 6870-5-103, DMP3. All the protocols that are implemented support the transmission of the events. They are stored in the device and can be transmitted via the communication module to a substation automation control system. Or COM-feed is also supported, where fault logs, motor start log, sequence of event log, user-defined logs can be defined in the configuration, and up to 2000, let's say, events are buffered in a cyclic log for the sequence of events, what can be then forwarded to a higher level system.
Perfect. Thank you, Michael. So I think we're almost out of time. I will ask one more very important pressing question. Where can we find the manuals and device drivers for the 7SX85? I'll pass that to Stefan, please.
Yes, okay. Thanks, Cole. Well, if you are familiar with SIPROTEC, you will find them at the same locations as all other devices. If you're not familiar, you can, for example, type in the web browser simply www.siprotec5.com, and then you are, with this link, you are redirected to our digital protection relay and control SIPROTEC 5 homepage. And on that homepage, if you scroll down a bit, you will find downloads and services. Here you would have then to register, and you are obtaining, after the registration, access to all of our manuals, firmwares, and whatever is there available.
Thank you, Stefan. Look, I think we've answered a lot of questions, and there are still questions coming through on the chat, which is really good to see. Some really interesting questions, specifically around process bus as well. But I want to take this time to wrap up the session now and just thank you all for your active participation. Any questions we haven't got to, like I mentioned, we will respond to you via email. So thank you again. And I also want to thank our experts, Stefan, Michael, and Klaus. Thank you very much for your expertise today. So please reach out to us. Please reach out to our experts and myself via LinkedIn or via email. And if you have extra questions, feel free to ask them, and we'll get back to you shortly. So just to wrap up this session as well, we would very much appreciate your feedback. So we're going to put one more poll up. And again, if you're in full screen mode, press escape and you can see the poll in the right-hand side of the screen. And we just wanted to know how useful you found this session. And also I should mention as well, just below the questions in the top right-hand side is a brochure for the 7SX85 device. So please download that and have a read as well. So again, thank you very much for your active participation. It's been a pleasure for me to guide you through this webinar on the SIPROTEC 5 7SX85. Stay safe, take care, and goodbye for now.